When a zebra is chased by a lion across the African savanna, its body undergoes a precise and dramatic transformation. The heart rate spikes. Blood pressure rises. Glucose floods the bloodstream. Non-essential systems shut down. Digestion stops. Reproductive functions pause. Immune surveillance lowers. Growth processes halt. Every available resource is redirected to muscle and brain for the immediate emergency. If the zebra survives the chase, the transformation reverses within minutes. The heart rate drops. Digestion resumes. The immune system returns to its work. The zebra grazes. The episode is over. Stress did its job and ended. Robert Sapolsky, a neuroendocrinologist who has spent his career studying the biology of stress in baboons and humans, made a career-defining observation in his 1994 book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. The zebra's stress response is brilliantly designed for the situation it evolved for: short-term physical emergencies followed by either death or full recovery. The same stress response in a modern human, activated repeatedly by deadlines, financial pressure, social conflicts, and traffic, becomes a slow-motion catastrophe. The hardware is the same. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis that mobilizes glucose and cortisol in response to a lion is the same axis that activates when your boss sends a passive-aggressive email. Your body cannot distinguish between physical and psychological threats at the level of physiological response. It throws the entire emergency switch in both cases. The problem is what happens when the emergency does not end. Zebras do not get ulcers because their stress responses are brief. They sprint, they survive, or die, and if they survive, the system resets within an hour. Modern humans get ulcers because our stress responses are chronic. The boss does not stop. The mortgage does not stop. The traffic does not stop. The endless flow of low-grade threats keeps the emergency switch partially on, sometimes all the time. The consequences of chronic activation are systemic. Glucose is being mobilized for muscles that are not running. The excess glucose contributes to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome. Blood pressure is elevated because vessels are constricted for fight or flight. The chronic elevation damages arteries and accelerates cardiovascular disease. Digestion is suppressed, which over time produces the gastrointestinal disorders that gave Sapolsky's book its title. The immune system is partially shut down, which makes you more vulnerable to infections, slower to heal, and at greater risk of certain cancers. Reproductive function is impaired. Growth and repair processes are interrupted. Memory and emotional regulation degrade because the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex are damaged by sustained cortisol. None of this happens to the zebra. The zebra's stress response is occasional and complete. Ours is constant and incomplete. The biology that saved our ancestors from predators is dismantling our bodies from within. Sapolsky's contribution was not just to describe this mismatch but to explain its biology in accessible detail and to draw out the implications. He showed that chronic stress was not a vague concept but a measurable biological state with measurable consequences across nearly every system in the body. He showed that the social and psychological factors that produced chronic stress in humans were not separate from biology. They were biology, mediated through the same hormonal and neural pathways that mediated escape from lions. A particularly important finding was the role of social rank in chronic stress. Sapolsky's research on wild baboons in Kenya showed that low-ranking males had elevated cortisol levels, greater health problems, and shorter lives than high-ranking males. The difference was not about food or shelter. It was about social position. Low-ranking baboons were chronically harassed, displaced, and stressed by higher-ranking ones. Their bodies marinated in cortisol. Their health collapsed. The parallels with human society are uncomfortable. In every society that has been studied, people lower in the social hierarchy have worse health outcomes than those higher up, even when controlling for material resources. The Whitehall studies of British civil servants showed that mortality rates were graded across the entire civil service hierarchy. The mailroom clerk had worse health than the junior administrator, who had worse health than the senior administrator, who had worse health than the director. Each step up the hierarchy was associated with measurable health benefits. The differences could not be explained by income, smoking, diet, or access to healthcare. The variable that tracked best with mortality was something more like position, the experience of being subordinated, controlled by others, lacking autonomy. Sapolsky proposed that this position effect operated through chronic stress. Low autonomy meant chronic activation. Chronic activation meant biological damage. Biological damage meant earlier death. The body was paying the price of being controlled. The implications are large. They suggest that the chronic stress of modern life is not just a psychological discomfort but a major public health issue, comparable in its effects to smoking or poor diet. They suggest that social inequality is not just a moral problem but a physiological one, with measurable consequences in the bodies of those positioned lower. They suggest that the standard prescriptions for stress management, exercise, meditation, sleep, social support, are not luxury self-care but interventions in a serious medical condition. What can be done? Sapolsky is famously cautious about easy answers. He notes that the strategies that buffer stress in baboons, predictability, control, social support, outlets for frustration, perception of progress, are the same that buffer it in humans. They are available. They are not always within personal control. Lacking control over your environment is itself the biggest stressor. You cannot meditate your way out of being a low-ranking baboon in a society that maintains rigid hierarchies. The book has gone through multiple editions because the underlying science keeps developing and because Sapolsky keeps revising. His tone is dark, funny, scientifically careful, politically aware. He does not pretend the problem is small or that the solutions are simple. What he offers is precise understanding of what chronic stress is doing to bodies and what the conditions are that produce it. The zebra is fine because it lives in the right kind of stress system. We are not fine because we live in the wrong kind. The fix, if there is one, runs through how we organize our lives and our societies, not just through how we breathe. His title became a piece of cultural shorthand. The argument behind it is more uncomfortable than the metaphor suggests.